This is the 9th event. Largely what VIBE is that we are a recycling centre for books and all sorts of music and other things. But also we support the community and we support the authors that are largely on Lantau Island. So musicians such as Pete Millwood, who's come in late, artists like Sally Bunker, and also various number of authors here. So in total we've got about 29 concessions of people with artistic talent all showcased in this shop. So today's event is Sally's. Sally's book Trees of Hong Kong and South China came out only 2 weeks ago. Yes. And so we're lucky to have Sally here today to present to us. Just one other thing to note is that this event is going out live on Facebook. So as we speak, so anybody around the world can see what we're doing here. Don't worry, don't panic. And so there is a couple of cameras. My good friends Phil and Michael are doing all of the sound and vision for us today. And so that's about it. So Sally's here. Sally's going to talk for, one other thing. So today's event is sponsored by Value Vigilantes and Solomon Leader, who's based in Puyo. So Sol is a wine merchant of red and white and sparkly. That's what you'll be drinking today. And certainly if you want to order any of Sol's good wares, then there's a price list at the back there, and feel free to... Cheapest chips, there you go. Yeah, but I'd like to... Yes. Yeah, via South Africa. But yeah, so a big thank you to Sol and Value Vigilantes. Good job. All right, so with that, we'll pass over to Sally. Sally's going to talk for maybe up to an hour. She's going to introduce her book and the process and the methods that she's used for botanical drawing over the years and painting. After the discussion, we're going to have a little bit of food, so drinks. So anybody who wants a drink now, speak. Would you like a sparkling or anything? No? Okay, so yeah, later on. So afterwards, yeah, we'll have a bit of a drink and something to eat. All right, so thanks everybody for coming. And with that, I'll hand you over to Sally Grace Bunker.
Friends. I mean, I know all of you really. It's great. And I think you got a little bit, I'm going to say the word, cheesed off about the fact that this book's taken me so long. And this is why I said essentially telling you why I've done the book and the process it's taken to actually get, after 7.5 years, it's taken.
Hey, hello. Come on in. Thank you. So, these are friends from Puyo.
All right. Hello.
Simon is the chef at Tap Tap.
All right, hello.
Your wife and daughter.
Hi.
Come on in. We've just started.
Oh, you just started, so that's okay.
You, okay.
Yeah.
Apologies for being late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simon Hills.
Simon, hello.
Hello, how do you do?
Hi. So I've 7.5 years of research and painting, 6 hours every day. Been very strict with myself, but there was a very good reason for it, because when we arrived in Hong Kong in 1979, that was Lantau. I don't even see it very clearly, but it was really barren. And I initially thought that, you know, like everyone does, that Hong Kong is full of lots of buildings. But no, this was a real eye-opener. Why is it barren? It was barren in the 1800s when Queen Victoria said, "Who wants this barren island?" Very true. There was a lot of deforestation going on. During the time of the Japanese invasion, obviously they used trees for lots of building and fire and that sort of thing. So trees are being an important part of everybody's life right from the word go. And trees, I think, are magnificent plants. They're survivors unless a huge typhoon knocks them over. Unfortunately, that's happened all too recently. But trees are our life support. Without trees, don't laugh, this was for children, but I thought you might like this. The most important thing that we gain from trees is our oxygen. And everyone complains about the air quality here. Yes, in Central it's awful. But here on Lantau, we're extremely lucky to have such good quality air. It is, actually, you can feel the difference. So I used to say this to children, I know air, CO2, that's O2s floating around the air. So that's the most important thing we've got. But trees have become part of everyday life for everybody, right back to when they started growing. And there's another chart. But can you tell me, this is an interaction by the way, if you want questions you can ask Vicky. You tell me, what other uses are trees?
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
sorry about this, but I'm not just in a lecture.
Pollen?
Shelter, fuel.
Yes, shelter, fuel.
Give a good breeze. The breeze.
Yeah, but that's the oxygen we get from them. Okay, come on, think.
Habitat?
Yes, 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 that gives us our oxygen. What about,
feeding insect life?
yeah, but what about us? We depend on it for food, shelter, medicines, shade, yes, and a home and a habitat for thousands of different. You are here in the evening. The banyan tree over there, what's in there, sheltering there, having their good old netter? Yes, the minor birds are there. So we've got firewood, oxygen, crafts, play. I'll tell you about play later on because trees are a very much important part of my play. Blossoms with the pollination, wildlife, shelter, timber, composting. Not very good for composting, but right now we've got a lot of trees down from the typhoon that will compost out. That will take 20 years, 20 to 25 years to compost, but it will give huge nutrients into the ground. Therefore, our trees growing now that are saplings will be stronger than they are now because our reforestation program, they put in fairly mature trees and they can't get established enough in the ground. So that was another reason I wanted to do this book on trees because they are very important to us. But I'm going to do a little quiz for you. You have no idea the diversity of trees. Do you know these trees? No, and these are all over the place. I'm going to give you Latin names, as it's a botanical thing. Schifferia octophylla. And the reason it's octo, meaning 8, you've got these 8 leaves around here. What I've done in my, this isn't a ribbon rather, I do the trees with a enlarged part of the bark. Because what do you see when you're walking through the hills? The bark of the tree. And if you actually put your hands on the bark of the tree, I don't know if you feel this, but I just know it's alive. It's a live, beautiful plant, and I think this, in my opinion, trees are beautiful things to have around. So that's a hard one for you. This one you might know, and you should. Who goes to Puyo Beach? You do, don't you? Yes. Well, do you know this one?
Oh yes.
Yes. Where is it?
My geography is not very good.
Right. This is the main thing that you would see. Right. Go into Puyo, turn right, go right to the very end of the beach. That's the tree, and this is called a selfish tree because it has this ability to drop its leaves and let out this funny sort of chemical which stops any other plants growing underneath it. So it's why it's called a selfish tree. This one has survived numerous typhoons, so most of the trees I've painted are actually on the island here, which we've been very lucky with. I'll just do a couple more, see what you think. Oh, you all know this one. Flame tree, Delonix regia. Yes.
What's it called, sorry?
Delonix regia. Yes, a flame of the forest tree. in the book, it explains about this tree, about its architecture.
Is that the one on
Which
your
is-
cover?
No, that's the Bauhinia. I have to go to that one now. But this tree is noted for its architecture because its branches are actually 5, like a spiral going, like a bike wheel going round, and it goes right up. Yes. So that's an interesting tree. I just do one more. So let me see if I can find this one. And you all know this one. This one? Yes, Bombax ceiba. And this is interesting because this year, after the storm, I don't suppose any of you noticed, it's done something really, really weird. It suffered so badly that the flowers hardly came out this year. Nobody said this year much about these flowers because there were very few. And it got into an awful muddle about, should I be flowering or should I be doing my leaves? And if you see now, when you're going through Puyo, you'll look up to the trees, you'll find that half the leaves are dying. And I think it's because the trees were rocked so much that the roots haven't got really back to establishing itself in getting the nutrients going up the tree, and it really has messed the whole of nature up. So we're now seeing sort of seasonal changes with our trees. So this is a good example of botanical artwork, which I'll explain more later on. But botanical artwork is very different from taking a photograph. Everyone says, why don't you take a photograph? On this branch are the... oh, hi Eric. You see.
Hi Eric, how you doing? Good to see you. Come on in. I don't really get round here.
On one branch, on one branch of the tree, I've actually depicted its start, and then it opening, and right to the actual flowering. You would never get that in a photograph. This is seasonal changes, and we call this a plate, not just a painting, a plate. And then I dissect the parts of the plant, of the tree and the flower. And this is very tedious because I have to pick out about 5 flowers and count all the stamens to see which is the exact number that is actually representation of that actual flower. So some have 70, 60, 80, I chose about 70, something like that.
Does each flower of one species have the same number of stamens?
That's why I have to count.
They do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it takes a long time.
Counting.
Your mic.
Oh, sorry. My mic's gone. Yes, and actually this is an interesting tree as well because it's pollinated by bats. And the reason for that is that's why it flowers first, because then it's easier for the bats, because they are sonar type indication of where they're going, are easier to get into these flowers before the leaves come out. And there's a whole load of nectar in there. And the other animal that really, really likes it now are the water buffalo. And they're amazing. It's the first time 2 years ago that I thought, well, they must be really hungry, and realised they've got a sweet tooth now. They really have. So the bats go in. There's a bit naughty of them really because they do peck in there, and sometimes the poor flower falls off because it hasn't got any nutrients to stay back on the tree.
Are these the ones that are very sticky?
Yes, that's
okay.
it's a nectar, and it's copious amounts of it.
Yes.
But I've never tasted it. So, but
The Chinese use them for a cough remedy.
yes, yes, they do. Yes, yes, yes. The only thing about this tree, it does produce these incredible pods full of K-pop, really type thing. But it can never be used because the strands of them are too short to weave. So in the olden days, they used to use them for stuffing pillows and something. So it's not a very thing with that. Now, to study, I studied trees because as a child, I go back to what I was saying, how I was involved in trees. My playground were the orchards of Kent, which is in southern England, and my twin sister and I used to really muck around in the trees, and that was our playground. We got very good at climbing trees. Also got very good at what's called scrumping. And we got rather sick on the fact that we ate too much fruit, but still. We got so good at it, in fact, and it wouldn't happen now. The farmers actually employed us. They actually paid us to go up the trees to get the fruit. And we could eat as much as we liked. So we were actually paid for it. It was rather nice. So my association with trees is right from when I was a child. So when I decided, I made a big decision when I was just coming up to 60 years of age. I'm going to give my age away. When I was in education a lot, I did a lot of environmental studies. I started school here, which is the first international kindergarten here, which I loved doing. And I went to Oxford to the Ashmolean. Now, Ashmolean is a beautiful museum full of beautiful things. And I fell literally, when I met Bob, I had that same feeling of falling in love straight away with something. Oh, I put that in.
How did Bob feel?
There's a lady called Shirley Sherwood, and she's got the biggest collection of artworks in Kew. And she had put on display a beautiful series of, take a geranium, all right? And someone in the 1800s drew a geranium and painted it. And then after about 20 years, another one. So she did a timeline of what a botanical artist would do. First of all, I didn't know the names of any of the trees, and to study the trees a lot, and most of which are on Lantau. But we had to do this timeline. This is why it takes a year to do a whole painting, because that is what I had to work from. I had to work out the names of the trees. I had to study them, look at them, and walk for hours and hours in the hills. That's why you didn't see much of me. And work out when they're going to flower and when they're going to fruit. And if you miss 1 year, which we did 1 year, I saw a tree out in flower, Alaritus, and beautiful flowers. And I said, well, I'll paint that when I come back from holiday. When I came back from holiday, all the flowers had gone. So I had to wait another whole year. And that's why it's taken 7.5 years. And Richard and Chu Pang, who was the researcher for me, he was so patient with me, and it was lovely to go out walking. And he got very technical in the end. He was going with his little pointer thing like this and putting it off on the, what is it, GPS thing and whatever. And I thought, no, I just can put ribbons around these trees so I can identify them. So I spent about 2 days a week on my own, because it's very difficult to take someone with you, because it's terribly boring, me sitting next to a tree and doing leaf rubbings and bark rubbings and seeing when the tree's going to come out in flower and then go back up again. Last year, the year before I think it was, doesn't matter, I went up Sunset Peak 4 times because I kept missing the flowering and the fruiting. And there are 2 endemic trees up at the Sunset Peak, the magnolia and a lovely one which I can never remember the long name because the Latin name is too long. You know star anise. Star anise, you will use it in cooking. It's endemic to Hong Kong because instead of having 6 little pods, it's got 8. And so it's endemic. The other one, magnolia, obviously everyone knows the magnolia, but you'll have to read in the book why it's unique. I can't remember what it was now. After 109 trees, I'm trying to remember what they are. But that's the fascination I had for them. Then I was thinking, I think I've spoken to some of you about this, what do you see when you're walking through the woodlands? What's the first thing you see of a tree? The bark. The bark of the tree. And I want you all now, when you go out walking, look at the barks of the tree, because they are absolutely lovely and they're not brown. They're not brown. There's one, if you look at in the book of the Pandanus Tectorius, this is the one that's got these awful, awful spikes on them, which I've actually found out has, let's find it, this one.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
It's down, it's a coastal tree.
Oh, yes.
And
It's great.
Well, if you see the original, the colours in that bark are just stunning. They're purple, pink, blues, silver, and as a botanical artist, I can emphasise that little bit, and it makes the understanding of how the tree looks as it is. But it's a devil of a thing, because you try and move these so you've got that composition and have that done. But they've not only got spikes either side, they've got them down the vein. Oh, it's awful. And the other one, Bob and I actually hate, because we both actually suffered from this one. Don't ever grab a tree when you're falling down a hill, because you might get this one, and it's because it's absolutely awful. It definitely doesn't like anything climbing it, because it's got spikes all the way down it. Prickly ash. And it's got and it deserves being the last in the book.
Oh wow.
Because it's awful. It's evil. It really is. And you walk past it and you're grabbed by it. It really hurts. And Bob and I have actually, it does hurt. Because you're falling down, you think, I mustn't be falling down here. I'll grab a tree. And you get lacerated. Something awful. So, but apparently, because I haven't really bothered to climb it, the flower's very fragrant. But who wants to climb a tree with all those prickles on it? Anyway, I've been told it does actually smell very nice. And then that's native to trees. So we've got, out of 390 native trees of Hong Kong, we decided to do 100, but it got to the extra 9 because there's so many beautiful trees. And we've done it in levels. So we've gone right to the tops of mountains, into the secondary forests, and down to coastal. And I hadn't realised about mangroves, how lovely they are. And in the book you'll find 3, I think, in there. And they have... Oh, are you leaving already? Oh, I'm not boring you that much. Bye-bye. No, it's going to work. So when you go to the coastal areas, this time of year you'll find a lot of ground flora as well. So the diversity of plants in Hong Kong is absolutely amazing, and all you've got to do is just be a little bit more aware of what's going on in the seasons. And we're very lucky because we have plants flowering all the time. So when you're right here where I'm standing, I can put my arm out there, and there's one of the rarest trees in Hong Kong through there, Gamelian. And the flower is so lovely. It's orangey yellow, and inside is this deep purple. Now, if you know the hibiscus, the hibiscus tilaceus, is that right? That's yellow, but look at the inside, and you think, well, why is that deep colour? And it's because the ultraviolet rays. So we can't see ultraviolet, but it gets the pollinators to come into that particular flower. That you will see around Moiwa a lot, and that's interesting because it has interesting pollination strategy. It's got a stigma. You've heard of stigmas and stamens. Well, in a flower, they're usually separate. In different ways of they're made up together. The stigma and the pollen get caught up with each other, and they cross-pollinization, whatever. Not this one though. This hibiscus has a spike going right up the middle of it, and the stigmas have wound itself round, the stamens have wound itself round the stigma. So it cross-pollinates itself in a way that it can either cross-pollinate itself, or if an animal goes in, because it's red in the middle, it goes on all the insects' backs, and next one you'll go and pollinate the next flower. So all these strategies that these flowers and trees have to get themselves pollinated is absolutely remarkable. And this book is a cross between the artistic side and the science side, but it's a book that's not over scientific. The information in the written work from Professor Richard Saunders is very, very readable. And the front part is obviously very technical, because this book is now going to be used for teaching university students. as well. It's an introduction to trees of Hong Kong, and already they're using them in their lectures, which is rather nice to know that we've got a broader audience to take it. So this is a book you delve into. You know, you go out and see something. Right now you'll find osmensis. Well, you smell that before you even see it. The flowers are tiny, and I've planted one right near us, so you'll smell that. Beautiful osmensis. So that it's in. The reason I've done this is to make sure that Hong Kong people realise the enormous diversity of trees we've got in Hong Kong, and I hope this encourages you to, when you're out walking, to really have a look. We are losing a lot of trees, obviously, because tree management isn't really what it should be here. For example, in Bowen Road, the ficus trees there had their bottom branches taken off because they were hanging over the road. And what happens, the crown is heavy, and there we go. But what happens there, you see the roots going down supporting the bank, right? But if you think about it, if you do a sideways thing on, the roots not only go down there, that's the main support, but the biggest support is how the roots go inland. So you've got the tree there and the roots at an angle. So when this starts going over, what happens? All the roads come up, you know, and people say, oh, they're dangerous. But if they left the bottom ones on and trimmed the tops, it would stabilise them. So I'm a bit worried about the fact that a lot of our banyan trees are suffering because of bad management. But we're addressing that quite a lot now, and I think someone's cottoned on to the fact that we've got to have tree experts here. And you can look at this book, you know, just throughout the seasons and actually find out what importance they have to us in our environment. And that time I'm getting thirsty, so I think I need a drink. Any questions then?
In Forbes Road, they've now trimmed the tops of
They
those
have.
trees,
Well,
yes, which is gorgeous. And,
yes.
and also in
So it
Queen's
has
Road East,
started.
they've done their
Yeah,
beautiful
they
ones.
have. Where's this in?
Forbes Road in Kennedy Town.
Yes,
as you come out of the
yeah, I know.
MTR.
Yes. Oh, that's good, because there's a guy at the Hong Kong University. What's he called himself? Right. Anyway, he's a crazy guy, but very nice. And I think he started getting Hong Kong government employ people that aren't really experts. So you really need experts to do this. Which, at the moment, I'm working for WWF at Island House, and I've been given gardeners and found out that nobody has done gardening. So I've now got to do a training session for them. This is really true. These gardeners, when I first started doing the renovation of the garden, I gave them the shrub in the pot. They dug a hole and put the pot and the shrub in together. Okay, say no more. Anyway, we're coming along slowly after 6 months.
Sally, what do you think is the reason these trees keep falling down and killing
Oh,
people?
the ground has been saturated by the amount of rain we've had, and it's loosened the soil, and we haven't got very good soil on Lantau Island, especially, and they can't go deep enough. Now, the opposite of that happened many years ago in the 1980s at Kew, when they had a massive 300-year-old oak tree really got shaken. They thought it was dying because it was pretty old, and it was during the storm it would shake. A lot of the trees went down, but not this particular oak, and it shook and shook and shook and shook like this. And after 6 months, they realised it was regrowing, and they realised what had happened. Everyone used the area underneath as a picnic area. So what they had done is actually made the soil really flat, and no air could get into it. Realising that this shaking was actually causing the air to get back into the soil, so nutrients could be brought up. What they've done now, I can't remember the guy's name, lovely guy, very keen on his trees. They've dug a hole and they put like a vacuum thing through it, and they've actually put oxygen underneath the trees, And they found out they're all starting to grow. Really old trees that really have had a struggle because of the impacted soil on the top. And that was a really nice story that he told. And this tree is just amazing now. So if you ever go to Kew, go and see the old oak tree. And yeah, it's like the song, isn't it? But it has actually survived beautifully. So from that, we'll take a little break, shall we? And if you're really interested, I would tell you what it's taken me to become a botanical artist. And it's not easy. 3 letters I'm going to give you straight away before I have my drink. OPP. You have to have extremely good observational skills. So watch out. I shall know exactly what you're wearing when you leave here. You have to have an awful lot of patience because you have to wait a year for a flower to come up. You have to go up there and think, okay, so when you're going to be in fruit and whatever. And you have to have persistence because you have to keep returning and doing things again. You make a mistake, one mistake in botanical artwork, you have to tear it up. And that makes you feel sick when you spent hours and hours on it. But one mistake in watercolour painting is not acceptable. So you have to have a lot of patience over that as well. But that's another story. And I need a drink. So if you want to look later on, I'll show you some other work.
So thanks very much, Sally. That's very good.
Yeah.
So Sally's book, for those that come in late, was Trees of Hong Kong and Southern China, on sale here for $400 today, but also on sale. Where else?
Swindon Bookshop, Bookazine. I think Swindon at the Hong Kong U, Swindon in Kensington Kowloon, and we don't know about the Hong Kong Bookshop yet though. I haven't been down there, but we were told it was going to be there.
Right.
And by
And Amazon.
it's on Amazon.
That
It's on Amazon.
Here. We've said that 5 times so far.
Really?
Right, you and I.
Yeah, it's true.
It's available
You
here.
and I have. Yeah.
Yes, Amazon. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And Amazon have gone out to. We got people now buying in America and UK, which is rather nice.
That's my relatives in America, I expect.
No,
Because I told them about it.
right. Maybe Amazon. There's a friend of ours that's got one as well. So.
No, I'm joking.
Downloadable
I'm
as an
joking.
ebook?
Yeah.
Is that on the?
Oh golly, I'm not that technical. I don't know.
Just wondering.
I don't know. I
On
don't
Kindle
know.
or something.
I don't know. Yeah.
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 I
I must tell you
like
one
books,
little.
though.
Can I drink there?
Yeah. Fine.
Not that I just write on my
Can I
iPad.
just borrow them? Yeah.
Sally, red, white, or sparkling?
I sparkling, please.
Sparkling.
Yes.
You earned it.
I was in UK at the it was a while ago, and Bob bought me a book called Wisdom of Trees by a guy called Mark Adams. On the 5th page, it said, "Some people are really deprived of seeing trees. People like living in Hong Kong." So I found out who this guy was. I sent him an email and told him, no, you obviously haven't visited Hong Kong. Right on the first cover here, you've got, we found this one. It's a lovely picture of that. Anyway, he wrote back. And if he was standing in front of me, I think he'd been terribly embarrassed.
And here he is.
Yeah. Yes, isn't it surprising how people think Hong Kong is just a concrete jungle? And this is what you need to do now. Take the book around with you and tell people this is what Hong Kong's really like.
But aren't you aware in town of how much they've
Cheers.
improved the greenery of Hong Kong?
Yes.
Oh,
I remember
yes.
going to Singapore and thinking, why can't our city look like this? And now I drive through. I mean,
like
I
getting a
expect
clue.
it here,
Yes.
but
I've been in Hong Kong
is
now for
so
40
much
years.
better.
And in that time, Central has absolutely blossomed. Okay, we've lost all the cotton trees up Cotton Tree Road because you can't grow trees on a big. That's why the cotton tree's not there anymore. And I tell you where is a beautiful place. You know where the old Murray car park was, and it's been pulled down. Now in front of that was absolutely trashy area full of all rubble from anywhere in Central, and it was awful. It smelt. It was where what's it called, the Bull and Bear If anyone was here long enough to know where Bull and Bear was. You remember Bull and Bear? Yeah.
Jackie Green was the barmaid.
That's right. She was a barmaid. Yes, yeah. Well, if you know that, you know the area I'm talking about. That was absolute trashy area. Now it's really, really lovely, and you can feel when you're walking past it the lovely scent of the trees and the other person is Gavin Coates. He's done an awful lot to get reforestation within the city, and they've done a lot of study now on what trees will survive, how big they will be, and whatever. The program, this is really the ultimate of all what other people are doing. And it was so nice to see that they were, in the 7.5 years, things have got better and better and better. And I hope you understand that actually go back and tell people that Hong Kong is amazing. 390 native trees we've got here. Do you know how many UK have got native trees? 42.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's the climate, isn't it? You know, you're cold. Who wants to live in a cold place? So, yes, it's amazing. And if you make comparisons with other countries as well, obviously, have you noticed what's the one that David Attenborough has done about the planet and the Amazon forest? He was saying about how it's been cut down to make palm oil. Don't ever have a product with palm oil in it, because the amount of the orangutans are losing their home. The gorillas in Rwanda are losing their homes as well, just because the people say, we've got to have all this stuff around. Well, we don't. I know trees are very good for us, but we don't need that much. We can use alternatives. So we need to be very proud of our trees here. The only thing about Hong Kong, though, especially Lantau, there's so many places I like to go to. You know, you go on the top and you see these huge valleys, and you think, what's down there? And I'm going to see if I can get an expedition. You know, when you're in Tung Chung, you look up and it's called the Five Claw Valley. Do you know that one? And it's the last one that comes from Sunset Peak down. Well, that's the one that normally you go down from there. That's where two endemic trees are, I told you about. The other three, the Chinese guy said to me, you'd have to have a guide to take you up there. But would it be lovely to go up there? I mean, we could find new species of trees up there, or animals. How do we know what's up there? So I'm really seriously thinking about, I won't do it on my own. I've been very, very careful about going out. I've told Bob exactly where I've been going. I've got...
People are always getting lost.
Well, no, there's their fault then, because they shouldn't go off the paths. They really shouldn't. I mean, the people have fallen off up in the new territories because they haven't kept on the paths. You do need to keep on the paths. I tell you what you have to do though. If you go off a path, which I've done not several times, but when I do, always mark out behind, because think about this, when you're walking forwards through trees or anything, or even a street, always turn round, because the view going forward is very different from where you've come from.
Exactly.
So you need to know, if you're walking back, you can't recognise it. So is that if you do that there's been a survey about, are women or men able to do locations, and they found out women are, because in the jungles they go out and they recognise the trees, but they do the right thing. They turn back, probably because children are running after them and they're telling, come on. And they actually know their way around, where some of the men actually do get lost. But it's amazing that is a technique which anyone going anywhere to use. Always look where you've come from, because then you know where you're going. You see what I mean?
Can I ask you a naive question?
Yes, do.
So the banyan trees seem to go on forever, don't they? They grow over walls and everything. Do they have a sort of an average lifetime? What kills banyan trees?
They don't actually. They go on for a long time. If anyone's been to the Singapore Botanical Gardens,
Yeah, it's a favourite place.
you go into that. You go up this and turn around and see where you've gone. You go up this beautiful path, and on the left-hand side, there's this massive banyan tree. Banyan trees are a most invasive tree. It's like having weeds in your garden. It's one of these trees. Banyans are fascinating. They drop their aerial roots down. They eventually become another tree trunk. And in Singapore, I think there must be 8. And they're just amazing, aren't they? Just amazing to see them. Can I tell you a quick story about a banyan tree? You won't. This is really sick. Not really. It's nature. And when you look at a banyan tree, what do you see? What's that red thing you see? You think it is? You know the you know. Right. Everyone thinks it's the fruit. No.
It's not a fruit.
Right, a fig. Yes, it's a fig tree. Yeah, but you don't know what goes on inside the fig. You'll never eat a fig when you know. Yes, I'll tell you. There are different, obviously, types of banyans and ficus. They are, all of them. What you actually see is not the fruit. It's the flower inverted, like that. Okay. And each different type of ficus has a special wasp that will fertilise it. Little female makes a little hole at the base of the flower, and inside are the stamens. So she is in there, she lays her eggs, and they stay inside. That's why you don't want to eat them, because it's full of little babies inside. And when they hatch, the little eggs, the females find another hole to fly out, and the males stay in, but they fertilise the females. So it's quite complex. So the females go off, and the poor males just die inside it. So when you eat a fig, you're probably eating dead little wasps. Actually, they're quite tasty.
But you don't eat those figs anyway.
No, you don't. Yeah, but the ficus are actually a different variety. But the bigger ones, I pollinate the same way. But yes, so next time you eat a fig, just say hello to the little guys that are left in the middle.
Yeah, once I tried to cut them open, it did look inside, and there are little worms.
They're not. They're larvae.
Yeah, but sometimes you still see a few of them actually moving.
Yeah, because you would. Yeah. They're munching on the fruit that's inside that we're supposed to be eating. Anyway, that's a little story about that. So everyone says, "Oh, hasn't it got a lovely fruit?" You can be very knowledgeable and say, "It's actually not a fruit; it's a flower." Which we've seen. Yes, but it obviously develops the pulp inside it as well. So it's a fascinating tree. Yes.
Any other questions?
Right. Any questions?
I've got a question.
Yes, Rachel.
Okay, all right.
And what is your favourite tree out of all the ones that
Oh, I knew you were asking. Yes. I haven't told you about this one. I've got to tell you about that one. I haven't got a favourite tree, because every tree I have done, when you look through the book, there's some that are really outstanding, but they're so challenging. Does anyone know the Zygium jambos? It's called the rose apple tree. There's one at the back of near where Jenny Quinton goes up to her place, where that river is. There's a beautiful one there. They've got the most stunning coloured leaves. They've got green on the outside, dark green, and it's lovely purple underneath. The flower isn't really a flower. There's massive stamens, and they are beautiful. But you try and paint hundreds of little them. I actually didn't count those. I thought there must be 100 of them. So then, painting. And then they turn out to be this beautiful fruit, which is, can describe it, yellow. You'll find it in there. Look up Zygium jambos. S, right at that. It is. I call it that because I don't know how else to spell it. It's one of these words that's got S, Z, Y, Z, G, R, U, N.
I'll go straight to the index.
You'll find it in the front.
Oh, the tree.
The tree, Zygium jambos. Anyway, it's a fascinating one. Each one is a challenge. So when I've been sitting studying them, they've all, little tiny hairs that you have to get. How do you paint a white flower on white paper? And that's all to do with actual shading. You don't actually paint the flower. You paint the
Oh,
shades
yes, yeah.
to make the flower look like the
Yeah,
flower.
there we go.
There it is.
Oh, yes, that's
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's a pom-pom tree.
Oh, yes, of course.
That's the one.
Exquisite, isn't it?
And being because of I've got artistic license as regards botanical work. To show that, I've actually put it on the background with the leaf behind it, so you can actually see the stamens. The other tree, which is the Casuarina Fisher, which you see out now, and if you're at a distance, it looks as though you've got a firework display like this. And they're up at Namshan. There are 3 now down the bottom because the big ones have gone from the middle. They are all lovely, but the thing about those, they've got I think it's about 50 spikes coming out of which makes the flower, but each one of those has got little tiny weeny flowers on it, and I wanted to have a really good close look at it, and I looked through my microscope and I saw these 2 black things on it. I thought, stamens can't be that big. And it wasn't. It was an insect looking at me.
So edible, are they?
What? No. Yes, they are. But the outside is quite tough,
Ah,
and their pollen, the distribution of the seed is now being difficult because in the new territories be by civet cats or monkeys. We haven't got that here, so they become rare on Lantau, very much so. But there are
any in our garden?
no,
The garden between yours
No.
and mine. Yes.
no. I'm
Because
afraid
there's a
not.
lot of fruit trees there that I don't know.
No,
what
I
they
planted their ones from
Yes.
Chinese New Year.
are. Yes.
Cut those down. Yes.
Yes, you've made it look beautiful anyway, so delicate. Lovely.
2 questions.
Yes.
What are the white trees that flower only in April? I think there was one near the toilets. At
Yeah,
Lantau.
Alaritis.
Alaritis.
Actually, absolutely beautiful. That's the one I told you about that actually I left it going away for, it's Easter time, isn't it? Yeah. And it just, all the flowers just fell off and I had to wait a whole year. Yeah.
And the other question is, do you have any?
Oh, not Alaritis, it must be, oh, wait a minute, no, it's Alaritis.
Alangium? Looks very similar to ours.
No, that's out now, Elangium. Oh, this is from Dollar.
Right, guys, so
Sorry,
shall we wind up for now?
Yes,
so
okay.
there's the food's here.
Yeah.
We can start again afterwards. We can do a little bit more if you got more questions or whatever. So this is Sally. This is her book. Sally.
Oh.
This is her book.
Oh, you didn't know.
Congratulations
Thank you very
on the
much.
book. It was 7 years in the making, I think.
7.5 years.
7.5 years in the making.
6 years. Oh, and I have to tell you that
Well done.
7.5 hours though, 7.5 years, 6 hours a day. I painted, and I've gone through over 500 audiobooks. And in that time, I've learned about the whole history of America, the whole history of Britain.
And you've listened to a few novels.